Monday, October 2nd, 12:35 p.m., Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm at New Mount Olive Baptist Church with Dr. Marcus Davidson, who's senior pastor of this church. Dr. Davidson, I'm wondering how Hurricane Irma affected the people in your congregation and in the neighborhood around the church.
Well, I will say that because we are in the zip code 33311, it's a bit more depressed than other parts of Fort Lauderdale. So the impact was probably more significant here because of the economic status of a number of our congregants. So what you're dealing with is people who lost power for a significant number of days. They had to discard food, and by discarding food, that would have meant that they then had to replenish and replace that food. Now, replenishing and replacing it would seem, minute to someone else. But if you had not budgeted for that and you're on a minimal income, then you had the impact of children being out of school for an entire week, maybe 7 days, consecutive days. So whereas some of these parents were dependent upon the children going to school to at least get breakfast and lunch, now they have to provide breakfast and lunch and dinner for them, which now becomes a different burden. And then if they're not in school, and then some of the parents might have gone back to work, they have a child care issue. So you now have a person who might have been just barely making it. They're struggling, trying to recover from that. So we might not have had as much physical devastation as others, but the economic impact is still great. And that is what I've seen, and that is what I see as probably being the most significant area of pain in our congregation and in our context. And we've tried to reach out to the best of our ability, but there are people who, that was a very devastating blow to them. So to recover from, for the average person who's doing well, a week of losing, power may not be as big of an issue for someone. But if you have planned and purchased food that you are, you're basically buying what you need as you go, and now you lost that. And then you had to try to figure a way to find someone and probably compensate someone to care for your children. Then having to possibly pay for additional meals that the school would have been taking care of for you. That poses a serious economic burden on a family in the context that I serve. So that's what I've seen as being the greatest issue. The debris, the trees, that's one thing, but that pales in comparison to people trying to have something that will sustain them physically. So that's what I've seen the challenge be.
I wonder if you have any idea how many people have been impacted that way. I mean, is it hundreds? Is it thousands? Any idea?
Well, because Broward School District is probably, I think, the fifth or sixth largest school district in the nation. And Fort Lauderdale, this area, there are a significant number of students here. Just to give you some level of context, our church, we often provide meals for homeless students. So that means there are students who are homeless. And if that population is significant for a child going to school and they're homeless, imagine those who are also in this context. I would lean towards a few thousand have probably been significantly affected by this.
And what is the church doing? How are you reaching out to help these people?
What we've done, we've worked through our nonprofit, MODCO, Mount Olive Development Corporation, and through them we've been able to feed a number of people. We've been able to obtain a number of donations. So our biggest goal at this point is just trying to get food in people's homes. We have done some community feeding moments pretty much ever since the storm has transpired. So for us, it's as much as people probably need money, they need food. So we've been trying to make sure that we can give away as much food as possible, and until you see it, it may not seem like much, but we had an event recently with Marco, and people were lined up. And this was this past Saturday, and this that far removed from the storm, but they are still in dire need of food. So that to me is the real issue.
Do you think that there will be a time when this situation will be resolved? Or do you think that there's a possibility that this food insecurity will continue?
You know, I think ultimately over time, people will ultimately get back on track and it will be resolved. But I do think this is the issue that we're facing. The storm activity was much greater this year, and I think we're going to continue to see that in the years to come. So what we're doing is trying to be proactive and prepare in advance, because it is I believe is going to be an issue going forward. So, you know, we saw several storms literally right there together, and I'm thinking I'm not from South Florida, but since I've been here, I've spoken to people who have lived here for a significant amount of time, and they have shared that normally this time of year, the storms, it would have been over even though hurricane season lasts through November, but they said it was more active this year of all the years that they've seen. So I'm under the impression this is going to be our lot in life, and we're going to have to prepare for this level of devastation, and unfortunately, I believe greater devastation. So, and it's tough because, you know, people hungry, children hungry, families hungry. That's a painful thing to watch. You know, people needing food. So, I'm just delighted that we've had you guys to partner with us, because it does help. Every bit helps. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank heaven the church is there.
Amen.
Blessings on your ministry.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys.